Okay, let's unpack this. We all know the name Beethoven.
Instantly recognizable.
You might instantly picture the intense composer, perhaps deaf, writing those, powerful symphonies.
With the common image.
But have you ever stopped to consider why? Why he achieved such, well, monumental fame? Was it just his incredible talent, or maybe something more?
That's a great question, and as we'll discover in this deep dive, the answer is far richer, more nuanced than just one single factor.
Okay.
What we've pulled from sources like Why Was Beethoven Famous? By the Listener's Guide on YouTube, it helps us move beyond those common assumptions
Right.
to really understand the forces behind his enduring legacy.
So our mission today is to give you a shortcut to being truly well-informed about Beethoven.
Yeah, get behind the myth a bit.
Exactly. We're going to peel back the layers, uncover some surprising facts that contributed to his huge fame. So let's dive right in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so to start our journey into Beethoven's fame, let's consider a rather pragmatic point, but a crucial one.
Okay.
Being in the right place at the right time. Our sources highlight that he had a promising career early on. I mean, really promising. And he even studied composition with Joseph Haydn, who was, a titan of late 18th century music.
Absolutely. Especially known for symphonies, string quartets, the big genres.
Right. And it's quite telling, isn't it, that Beethoven chose to stake his own reputation on those very genres.
Yeah, partly admiration, maybe partly a bit of spite too, wanting to outdo the master.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But Haydn's name definitely opened doors for him in Vienna. Gave him a significant head start.
For sure. And zooming out, this wasn't just about individual talent. It was happening against this backdrop of profound cultural shifts in early 19th century Vienna.
Okay, what kind of shifts?
Well, you had the aristocrats, right? The traditional patrons of the arts. They were starting to cut their budgets for orchestras, for symphonies.
Oh, it's tightening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, you have this thriving middle class emerging, and they wanted music that spoke to them, not just the elite.
Right, they wanted art that reflected their own lives, their aspirations maybe.
Precisely. So this created a kind of void, you could say, a market, really, for a composer who could appeal to this growing bourgeois aesthetic, art for the people.
And Beethoven stepped into that.
He did. And frankly, he had very few direct competitors who were really capable of filling that specific role at that time.
Wow. So he steps into this changing landscape. And then, about 10 years into his public composing career, his works noticeably transformed.
You can really hear it.
They became more restless, more emotionally charged. Think about his Third Symphony, the Eroica.
Ah, yes. The famous dedication story.
Right. He initially dedicated it to Napoleon, viewing him as this, champion of democracy.
Yeah, the great liberator, or so he thought.
But as the story goes, when Napoleon crowned himself emperor, Beethoven was apparently so outraged he scratched out the dedication. Scratched it so hard he ripped a giant hole right through the manuscript.
Incredible. A very physical reaction.
It really was. And this symphony truly marked the beginning of his heroic period, characterized by these sweeping arcs of struggle moving towards triumph.
Like the Fifth Symphony later on, that iconic journey.
Exactly. It's such a powerful statement, both musically and, well, politically too, in a way.
And what's truly significant here, I think, is how this dramatic musical arc coincided with his own personal struggles.
You mean his hearing?
Yes, exactly. As his hearing deteriorated, it led to both personal isolation and musical isolation, too.
That must have been devastating.
Unimaginably so. And while it's undeniably a monumental achievement to continue composing as you lose your hearing, it's also important not to romanticize it.
How do you mean?
Well, people sometimes talk about it like it was some kind of supernatural ability he suddenly developed. But this was a man who had dedicated his entire youth to training.
Right, the groundwork was already there.
Absolutely.
Right.
He'd studied with a master like Haydn. He'd been composing professionally for nearly 2 decades before his deafness became too severe for him to, say, perform publicly. By then, he had this intimate internal knowledge of his craft. He knew the music. It lived inside him, regardless of what his ears could literally perceive.
That makes so much sense. It wasn't a miracle. It was mastery. Profound mastery, tested by hardship.
Exactly. And here's where that narrative, the artist hero narrative, really takes hold after his death.
The posthumous storytelling.
Right. An unmailed letter to his family was discovered, the Heiligenstadt Testament, it's called.
I've heard of that. Very intense.
It reveals his despair, his suicidal thoughts even, but also his conviction that only music, only his art, kept him going.
Wow.
And this letter, well, it powerfully fueled a very potent 19th century narrative. The downtrodden artist overcoming these insurmountable obstacles to produce sublime, all-consuming art.
He became the perfect romantic hero.
Pretty much. The artist battling personal demons to create timeless beauty. Sort of everybody's 19th century emo fave, you could almost say.
Oh, okay, I see that.
Yeah.
And this personal narrative, it amplified his musical impact too.
Absolutely. If we consider his musical contributions themselves, I mean, Beethoven's symphonies profoundly reshaped the genre right across Europe. He did revolutionary things.
Like what?
Well, like putting a chorus into what was traditionally a purely instrumental work.
The Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy.
Exactly. That kind of innovative thinking, combined with a relative scarcity of other composers working quite so prominently in the symphony genre at that exact moment,
Right.
it meant that any subsequent composer trying their hand at symphonic writing would inevitably be working within Beethoven's immense shadow. He didn't just contribute, he sort of redefined the whole landscape. He set the bar incredibly high.
Okay, so you've got the timing, the evolving style, the personal struggle narrative, and this massive musical influence.
It's stacking up.
And this leads us to think about how history itself played a role in shaping his legacy, right?
Yes, that's a really important layer. The 19th century saw the rise of what's often called the great man view of history, meaning a perspective that often simplifies complex societal shifts, boiling them down to the actions and influence of a few sort of towering figures, leaders, geniuses.
Okay, I see. Like, history is just a chain of important people.
Kind of. And in Viennese music, this meant creating this seemingly clear linear progression. Haydn gave way to Mozart. Mozart then gave way to Beethoven.
Ah, like passing the torch.
Exactly. And then, after Beethoven, there was this intense, almost defining debate about who would inherit his mantle.
Right. Who's the next Beethoven?
Was it Wagner?
Yeah.
Liszt? This ongoing argument, this whole search for his successor, it inadvertently cemented Beethoven even more firmly right at the center of 19th century German and Austrian musical culture. His importance was constantly being debated and reinforced.
That's fascinating. The argument itself kept him central.
Precisely. And the interesting implication here is how this historical view often created a very specific, almost curated image of Beethoven.
The one we mostly know.
Yeah, the sullen artist hero. Gruff, maybe a bit antisocial, yet producing this unparalleled greatness. A tortured genius.
Okay.
But to sustain that kind of singular image, you sometimes have to conveniently overlook, or at least downplay, a significant portion of his actual output.
Like what? Music that doesn't fit the mold.
Exactly. Take something like Wellington's Victory, for instance. It's a military symphony written to commemorate a specific battle.
Okay. Is it any good?
Well, it's often described as a bit hokey, almost too on the nose, maybe a little bombastic for the event it commemorates. Programmatic music.
So not exactly the profound depth of the late quartets or the ninth.
Not quite. It's certainly no ode to joy, let's put it that way. It showcases a very different, perhaps more commercial, or maybe just occasional side to his work that doesn't quite fit that tortured genius's mold.
So history kind of cherry-picked the parts that fit the narrative it wanted to tell.
It often does. It highlights the selective memory involved in constructing these monumental figures.
All right, so bringing this all together then, what's the core takeaway for you, for our listeners, from all of this?
Well, I think it's that Beethoven was, and continues to be, famous because he symbolized many different yet equally important things to various influential people and cultures over time.
So it's not just one simple reason.
Not at all. It's more like a rich, complex tapestry. It's woven from opportune timing, undeniable talent, yes, but also profound personal struggles, revolutionary artistic choices.
And the powerful historical narratives built around him, especially after his death.
Exactly. All those threads together.
This really prompts us to consider a vital question, doesn't it? About how we view any artist or historical figure.
Yes, how necessary it is to occasionally gently pull them off those pedestals we put them on.
And recontextualize them. See them in their full historical and personal landscape.
Right. For you, the listener, understanding these layers, I think it gives a far deeper appreciation, not just of his incredible music, but of the multifaceted, complex human being he actually was.
Absolutely. So next time you hear a Beethoven symphony, maybe listen not just for the beautiful notes, the familiar melodies, but also for the echoes. Echoes of a shifting society, a groundbreaking artist pushing boundaries, challenging norms.
And the evolving myths. The stories that have kept his name alive and resonant for centuries.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What aspects of other famous figures, other historical giants, might be due for a similar kind of deep dive,
That's a great question.
revealing the messy, complicated, but ultimately more fascinating truths behind their legends.